PowerPoint. All right. Okay, so welcome again. And we've introduced ourselves. Rachel is the coordinator. Is this your actual title? Something?
It's just confusing.
It's long. Coordinator of Student Support Technologies at the Community College System. And then Heidi and I have introduced ourselves. And quickly to set the context for adult education, Heidi's going to cover our WIOA segment.
So welcome and thank you for joining. The Virginia Wizard gives us an opportunity to think about how adult education is really addressing the requirement that all classrooms, all students, are exposed to workforce preparation activities. The definition of workforce preparation activities is on the screen. This is the official definition from the regulations. You can see that it's very broad. It encompasses lots of things that we have called secretary scan skills, global learning skills, 21st century skills. There's a lot here. You are probably already doing quite a bit of this, but I think that using the wizard as a deliberate tool in your adult ed toolbox gives you the opportunity to not only teach these skills, but to also understand how you are helping put every one of our students on a career pathway right from the beginning. That you are introducing the ideas of preparing for employment, preparing for a career pathway, what's next, helping students get oriented to the workforce priorities that are in WIOA. Rachel's going to talk to us about going into the wizard as a workforce tool. And so I'd like you to be thinking workforce prep. When she says workforce, you say workforce prep. And think about that in your interpretation of what she's saying. How will this help me demonstrate to my program manager that I am incorporating workforce preparation activities into everything I do? And how can we as a program talk about all of our students being on a career pathway right from the get-go? So thank you, Rachel, for making time to come and talk to us. And the only other thing that I wanted to remember to say is that the Virginia Wizard is a statewide initiative that is co-supported by adult education state leadership dollars. So I want you to help us get the most out of our investment. Use this tool. It's free to you, but the state has invested in it, and our adult ed state leadership dollars are part of that investment. So looking forward to seeing it used more and making sure that it works for all of us. So thank you, Rachel, for coming.
And I'm going to turn it over to Rachel, but Rachel and I are working together to put together a resource that will be on the site to show exactly where and how our college and career readiness standards and our English language proficiency standards are aligned with segments of the Virginia Wizard. So we're developing that tool. There will be some sample lessons and also just kind of a listing of aligned areas with the standards as you go through it. So this way you'll be able to see exactly what skills are needed for certain parts of the wizard, what skills are assessed, and how can we incorporate standards into using the wizard in our classes. So that's coming soon, and we'll send out announcements, and we should have that by this summer conference. So when you come, we'll have that for you too. So now we're gonna pop into the well, I think I'm going to the share. I'm going to share. We're going to share our screen. And do I go ahead and share my screen? Okay. Do I just move this around?
So go over to this tab.
Ah, okay, excellent. There we go. Okay. It's going to be just.
Try the other options.
Share.
And go to desktop.
There we go.
Just go.
Yeah, we'll do this. This will work. Thank you. Mhm. Okay. All right, now we're here. Yay! So I'm going to hand this over to Rachel.
Did we already say just hold all your questions to the?
We'll save
Yeah.
time for questions.
Yeah.
When we come back.
Perfect. Okay. So thank you guys for taking some time to walk through the wizard. You may be familiar with what I'm going to show you. You may have never seen it. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through some things that you may find helpful, and we always want to know what's working for you and what isn't working. We're always open to feedback. So please make sure that you do, as you're kind of navigating the site, jot down the things that you think are really important, you know, that we may be able to add here or there or tweak. We would love to do that for you. So a couple things. First of all, if you do not have a Wizard account, I would strongly suggest that you go ahead and just register for one, and you go to vawizard.org right there on the screen and just click register. And this is what your participants will need to do as well for you to get them up and running. So it's the same process for you or anybody. You just click register. A couple of things. We do ask for a birthday just so that if we need to reset your password, we can easily do that and that we can find you in our Wizard user table. We have right at 3.5 million accounts statewide. So about 1.5 million of those are K-12 and community college, and everybody else is 2 million accounts. So that's a lot of adults using the Wizard. We really want to make this work for you, as I said. So if there are other ways that that you see that we can do that better, please let me know. I'm not sure if we put my email address up there, but we'll do that at the end. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to email me. So I'm going to go ahead and log in as me, just so that you can kind of see some of the extra stuff that you might get when you create an account. So once you register for a Wizard account, you'll see this welcome, and you see my username here. When I click on that, I see this profile link. And I want to tell you just briefly that this is our next upcoming project to redo this profile page for workforce participants and for all adults who are not flagged with a K-12 college flag. Basically, every user that isn't K-12 or college is going to see a new profile page with workforce tools. So we're really excited about that. Once that's rolled out, we will let everybody here know, and they'll let you know, because it's going to make your life much easier. You'll be able to send your participants right into their profile, and then they'll never need to click around the site. We're still working on that. It's going to take us about 2 months to really build that out. So I want to show you some alternate ways to get to the tools that we will have in that profile for you eventually. Right now, when I click profile, I'm going to see a whole bunch of stuff that I've done when I've logged in and surfed this site. So just so you know, everything that you have collected in your time of using the Wizard is going to be here. And the same for your customers, your clients. Everybody is going to be having that data tracking for themselves. So when they log in, let's say they took an assessment a year ago, they went through some kind of short-term training and they thought it was perfect, and then they came back and they were like, nope, I don't want to do that. They can get back to their assessment results from the last time and also take it again. So all of this data is in here in the profile, and that's very helpful for them to be able to come back and see it. And you'll see right here on the left-hand side, not only your career goals are in here, but all of the other things that you might need, assessment results, get financial aid in there, and a whole bunch more stuff.
I don't really want to focus too much on the profile page because we are going to be significantly modifying it for adults, but just want to show you what it looks like now. It really does benefit your participants to have a profile though, because if they, for example, come in and they have time to do half of the assessment. If they're not logged in, all of that data is gone. They're going to have to start over again when they come back and start a new session. So let's say that they want to do the assessment, but they only have, 20 minutes and they need a little bit more time. Once they're logged in, if they get to the halfway point, they can stop, walk away, and then it's going to be there for them when they come back to their login screen to their profile, as well as all the other stuff they've done in the wizard. So I'm going to take you through the Workforce tab. And by the way, this Career tab here and the Workforce tab are the same thing for now. So you can have them click on either one. And we created this based on a lot of feedback from coaches, and especially adult coaches working in workforce centers, etc., so that we could make sure that we have a kind of step-by-step process for adults to go through. And please keep in mind that none of this has to be done in this way. You can chop it up and say, you know what, all I want people to do right now is assess their skills. Okay, great. So this is really up to you, and you know your participants best. You come into the site and see, hey, they need this or they don't need this. But the way we've kind of planned it out is a progressive step-by-step process. We do have an overview of the site. Did you already show that? That'll kind of show you how that workforce 6-step works as well, if you need something written. So our step one in the Workforce or Careers tab is assessments. We start with an assessment so that everybody kind of gets a baseline. What am I interested in? What do I value in a work environment? What am I good at right now? This is an ONET assessment, and we were talking before the webinar started, that this may not be the assessment that is right for all of your participants. We know that. They may not have the kind of reading proficiency that you would want for them to be able to get through this assessment. And that's just something that's going to have to be something that you assess. But these are tied into all of our careers and our career labor market information data. It's exactly the same as the ONET assessment. The only changes that we've made is we have combined the ONET interest and the ONET values, work values assessment, to one assessment, so that in 15 to 17 minutes you get Holland codes with careers that result. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. If we click on the assessment, when it's going to ask you to go through a series of questions if you've never taken it before. It's going to ask them what they like and to say they like it or they don't like it. When they get down to the end of it, you're going to see this screen. And these are my assessment results because I'm logged in as me. So every one of our assessments look the same way. You're going to see the date that they took it. You're going to see their 4 Holland codes, interest, values, values. And then the results are going to match all 4 of those codes for this interest and values assessment. So if I click explain result, I'm going to get the definition of those results just for my codes. So they're going to be different for everybody. They're based on Holland codes, so they're going to be different for everybody, but that's how we ask people to kind of read through what their results mean. A lot of people think, hey, I'm artistic, I don't like to paint. They have that kind of in their head. And so sometimes it can help them to see examples of what a career means, what kind of career would use that artistic value. So we have that there for you. In the profile page, is also, oh, and I want to click off of it because I'm going to have to come back here. There is a whole document that explains Holland codes in more depth if you feel like somebody really needs to read more into that, or if you would like to take a look at it as well. Everything is based on the Holland codes. You know, the career coach guru who wrote the self-directed search and created that in the 70s, that's what ONET's assessment is based upon. So all of our careers come right from that. Once you get your codes and you've taken your assessments, you're going to click on Show Careers. And all of our careers are based on the time the individual wants to spend in training. So you are going to see things under 2 years, 2 years, 4 years, above 4 years. Sometimes you're going to get a participant who doesn't like anything until they get above a master's degree. And that's a real place that you can stop and say, hey, you know, one of those two things has to go. Either you're going to spend more time in school to do what you really want to do, or we need to reassess your path. And they may want to actually retake the assessment with that in mind, and that's totally fine. But this is a great critical thinking tool. Well, I'd love to be an actor, but I've never taken any acting classes and I'm in my 60s and I'm probably not going to do that, right? So that critical thinking about not only what does this career entail, but is this realistic for me and my lifestyle right now, and any barriers that I might have right now? Can I do this? So you'll see a different list at each educational level. So here's one that I've actually put in my career profile, and I can just add or delete right from this page. So the next time I click on my profile, I'm going to see whatever it is that I put in here. So sometimes in our, kind of lesson planning, especially with K-12 and community college participants, we actually encourage them to find a career at each one of those timed levels that they may be interested enough in to add to their career profile. That's really up to you, but that's kind of what we think is maybe a best practice to get people's world expanded a little bit. We know that the average adult knows about 50 careers. So if you expand that worldview, they're probably just going to have more options than when they walked into your classroom, which is what we should hope for. Every one of these careers, let me go back to 4-year just for a minute. So every one of these careers also has data attached to it. When I click on the career, I'm going to see all of the college programs that offer this career and what degree I need for them. I'm going to see kind of a definition of that career and the cluster. I have another opportunity to add it to my career profile. Then I'm going to see for every career in the wizard, right at 1,000 careers, how much I will earn, bottom, middle, and top, both hourly and annually for Virginia versus the US. When I give this to counselors, a lot of them say they're in the wrong business, which is always kind of funny. Yeah. So and then we hit on diagnostic sonography or something, and they're making $70 an hour with an 18-month certificate. So the sky is really the limit, but this is another critical thinking piece. If your participants need a certain amount to live on, and that's really what they need for the family they have and the lifestyle they have, they're probably not going to want to go into a career that's going to take them 25 years to get to that level. If they're starting at the bottom because they're brand new or they're career switching or something, can they live on that wage until they get up to this median? And another place you can check on that is career growth. So this profession is in decline. So maybe I really want to be a political scientist. I really want to make $139,000 a year as the median for political science. But I know that my chances are pretty bad at finding a job. Only 700 projected openings in that 10-year census period. So that's probably not the kind of job I'm going to focus on. But look here, I can go right to that STEM cluster and see what else matches my interests and values in that cluster. Maybe there's something that's growing faster. maybe there's something that I can redirect this person to think about at least. So that is how I would use the assessments. The skills assessment, by the way, is only going to give career clusters. This is a pretty approachable assessment, though. The language is more approachable, and especially if you have people that are maybe a little bit more insecure about their own skills, this may be actually a good assessment to give. We see this a lot in elementary, middle, to kind of help people go, oh, I am good at that. I didn't ever think of that as a skill, as a work skill, but I'm good at that. And we have that kind of embedded in other places in the site as well. So the same thing will happen. We're going to explain the results of work skills, the careers under each time, and the clusters. That is assessments. So that's step one. You know, you really are sort of you are the wisest people to understand your group and see if an assessment is the place to start. Generally, as a coach and having done this for a while, I would go with an assessment, but every once in a while you get somebody that just has a lot of pushback. They're not going to do it. They know exactly what they don't want to think about it. So consider what else you can do to kind of build around it and then maybe come back to it at the end just to confirm what they are wanting to do. Sometimes if you back into it, people are a little bit more receptive to it. So our step 2 here on the workforce tab, again, I just clicked on it again, is skill building. And this is just a very, very low key way of a participant going, I can rate myself on these kinds of skills. This is what employers say that they need. So 9 times out of 10, your participants are going to be able to honestly rate themselves, especially by the time that they become adults. They know what their gaps are. They already know most of the time. So maybe they rate themselves really poorly on soft skills, but they really know what they're doing technically, and they're kind of in the middle somewhere else on the critical thinking. That gives you, the educator, kind of an ability to say, you know, if most of the people in your class are rating themselves lower on soft skills, why is that? Can we spend a little bit more time on developing those skills? And the good thing is, soft skills are, you know, easier to develop than some other kinds of skills. So you can work on that. Down at the bottom of each one of these tabs are links. What is a soft skill? What is a critical thinking skill? What is a technical skill? Here's why you need it. And I don't know about you guys, but I need to know the why behind what you're asking me to do. Please give me the context of, don't just stick something on me, give me the why. And so we've tried to do that in every single step of this six-step progression. It's hard to say, six-step progression. So all of these are outside links, just so you know, but they're pretty good documents to help give what you're saying to them some oomph. Once they've done that, they can take the next step. All of these things here are available for you to download. And I just want to let you know that you can download, chop them up, use them however you want to. If 1 or 2 things works in it, but the rest doesn't, that is totally your call. And you can, this is your document, you can change it however you want to. This career plan template is something that we're revamping to be very values oriented. Right now it's a pretty standard career plan template. That is helpful, but I'm not sure it's as meaty as it needs to be, as quickly as it needs to be for this population. So we'll be working on that with the goal of having that completely finished by this summer and up on the site. Here is a little exercise that I really love. Is it okay if I download this?
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
that looks really fun. I want to see it.
So let us just, can I save it though?
Oh, click on the blue underneath the
This guy?
here, we'll move this. There we go, yep.
Okay, save. Got it. Okay, so I'm just going to bring this up. This is one of the simplest little exercises ever. It seems like a nothing. It seems like this will not work at all. But if you do this, especially with a group of people, or you have them get in groups to do this, you're asking them, okay, I've taken an assessment, I've got a job in mind. Now get with a group, or let's do it as a class, and describe that job. If I asked you to describe the job you're doing right now, you could probably do that in a few words, in a few sentences. But if I asked you something to describe something that you had zero idea what that job entailed, you would have to do some research. You would have to do your best guessing. You would probably be open to listening to other people about that. And believe it or not, a lot of adults come into this kind of setting with this idea of what the job entails, and they really haven't done the back end research of this is actually what the job entails. So describe the job. Okay, what are the very minimum qualifications of the job? And then preferred, what would you want if you were the hiring manager? And then at the end, I always ask this question, would you hire yourself as you are right now? Very powerful and very simple exercise. 10 minutes is all you really need to spend on it because, again, it's opening up that critical thinking pathway. So they go, hey, ooh, there's some things I really need to think about. When I use this in high schools, it's always a YouTuber or some, career like that students want to be. And I make them do this. And I say, do you have the qualifications? And it's great, the feedback that we get. So I highly recommend this very simple little exercise here. There's a bunch of other links here, SMART goals, I'm sure you're doing, skill identification, and all that other stuff is all here at the bottom of this step. If I click the next step, here are some resumes, do's and don'ts. We have resume links for workers over 50. The Muse is actually the #1 career builder resume site for millennials. And if you sign up for the Muse, they give you this cool little daily email digest where they talk about things like little career tips. It's very approachable, it's free, and so all of these links are things that we think are really powerful and valuable, just so you know. So even if we don't do it, we're trying to send you to places that are worth your while to look through. Interviewing. How do we do job searching for older workers? What are the barriers there? Do they have any of these sort of ideas that they can't just put in a resume and sit back and wait and think that it's going to be, enough? So these are things that we need to be talking about. Practice. How do you do that? What's a behavioral interview? Here's a STAR interview behavioral sheet with some guidelines, top 10 questions that are generally asked at interviews, especially if you're dealing with people who have, let's say, come from a manufacturing background or something where they're not doing behavioral interviewing. They really need a lot of practice. I've talked to many adults who kind of freeze when they're asked, tell me about a time question, because they're not thinking about it in a story sort of format. So the more practice they get, I think the more comfortable they are actually doing that and it feeling meaningful to them. We do have links to all of the career coaches, sort of both in the workforce centers and the VCCS, and why people need career coaching. So if your participants want to continue on and maybe work with a coach too, they can definitely do that. The next step is about networking. Some people do this really well. Most people don't. Most people don't think about who they know as helpful to what they want to do. So they either see the same 3 people all the time, but in their same exactly age and stage, or they don't think anybody's that they know is related to them getting a job. And so helping people understand that that network is absolutely every person that you see during the day. It's the people that you develop those contacts with. It's being able to get a social media presence, which is really a barrier for some people that aren't tech savvy. You're in this unique position that you can kind of help them do that better because it's so important. We know most people don't find a job any other way except through people they know. 85% of people get a job through a personal contact, and we're just gonna ignore it as it doesn't matter, but it does. It's probably the most important thing we're not doing. So this will help them kind of figure out the why to do that, and also about social media. So here we have little helpful tips: how to create a LinkedIn profile, what's an elevator speech, how to write one. You're probably already doing a lot of this, but this can help kind of ground what you're asking them to do as well. The next step is all about those extra resources in case these are things that your participants need: industry credentials, financing, etc., as well as outside links and some kinds of other outside sites that may be helpful for some of your participants. Also at the bottom of every page there's our Jenny, there's our kind of model. She was with us from the beginning in 2009 when we started the Wizard. She used to talk, and it was very off-putting to hear 30, "Hi, I'm Jenny, I'm Jenny, I'm Jenny, I'm Jenny." So she doesn't talk anymore. But she can help you. So there's a lot of these little tips and tricks and advice on every single page of the Wizard. And we try to be very thoughtful about where we put what we put. So in the workforce section, it is stuff about career switching. It is stuff about older workers. It is stuff about how to get yourself back out there if you've had one job for 20 years and you want something totally different. You can, of course, also look at colleges and all that other stuff under the students tab. But for the majority of your participants, the workforce is really what they're looking at least for now. So I just clicked back on the workforce main page, and just to show you a couple other things. Under those 6 steps, we also have a couple of just career searches. You can do this without being logged in if you just want to give people a little bit of a homework. Go in and look for this one particular career. And I'm going to show you this. It is pretty overwhelming though, because if I just scroll all the way down that page, I'm going to see 1,000 careers. So by the time you get here, you're just picking one. So maybe a better way to do that is by either the career cluster, which a career cluster is going to categorize things into those broad career strokes. So a poli-sci, political scientist, was under STEM. And that was one of those things that it was in decline. So if your individual goes here and can answer yes to these 2 questions, maybe this is a cluster they need to explore a little bit further. So when I click on it, I get all the pathways under that career. When I click on that, I'm going to get all the careers under that pathway. And if they're growing slower or faster, it's going to show us. So average is just going to be there, but decline, little or no change. So I see a ton of careers that are in that science and math pathway. So that's another way that your participants can get a little bit more of a better idea of what's expected for them if they really want to go into one of these careers. And again, anything I click on, I can add to my profile. But when I click on it, I'm going to get these same 3 tabs: the college programs, how much I'll earn. Let's just check this guy. Mechatronics engineer is what I clicked on. Less than poli-sci, who knew?
We did a mechatronics plugged in a while ago.
Oh, that's fun.
I thought they said megatronics.
Mecha.
That's what I thought you said.
The mecha. Still, starting at $28 an hour is nothing to sneeze at. And so, and let's look at the career growth. Slower than average, so we definitely want to find one that's going fast or, at least average for our participants. So that is the search careers by name and cluster. And then again, all of our little links here at the bottom. And that is our workforce page. So you can see there's a whole lot additional to the wizard than just the assessments. And we really hope that you will play around with it and see what's working for you and what isn't. Give us the opportunity to tweak things, that we may be able to help the whole state by something that you say. So definitely, keep in mind when you're looking through this on your own, what works and what could be reset in a different way or approached in a different way. And then to go back to all of those results, you just go back in, click on your username and click your profile, and all those careers are going to be right there for you. Right here. And I think I am through. So I guess we'll take your questions, or is there?
Go back to the chat. We have a couple documents for you too, so I'm just going to show you what they are. And one of them was attached to this right here is a kind of one pager of a flyer of what the wizard can do for you. Mm-hmm. And so you had this in the attachment for the email for this webinar, but we will send this out as well as this 2-pager that Rachel put together. If you want to talk about this briefly.
Sure. So this will kind of just walk you through the 3 roles. So we only looked at the workforce role today. You may have people that want to go into college, into some kind of community college training program or on to 4 years. And so you would want to kind of take them through the student role, and that is there. And all of the pages are there as well, so you can know exactly what to expect. And then if you have veterans and they have had time served in the military and the armed forces, we actually have this great little veterans part of our site that allows them specific help just for them, including Credits to Careers, which is a program that allows them to see how much community college credit they may get for time served just by uploading their military transcript. So there's a whole bunch of other things that I hope are reflected pretty easily to find on this document.
And there's a question in the chat from Cameron, if there's any future plan to make the website available in languages other than English.
No, and I would love to be able to say yes, but that really is a funding thing, and it is very cost prohibitive to do. What we do have, though, is in the admin section of our site, all of the Spanish language resources to occupational handbook, ONET assessment in Spanish, etc., lesson planning in Spanish. That's all in the admin part of our site. So I think we've talked through this before, Heidi, about how to kind of approach that. And if you are interested in using this with your participants and kind of looking at the back end documentation of things, probably the easiest way is for you to register, and then we'll make you guys into admins so that you can kind of have all of that at your fingertips. Also with the standards alignment documents and some lesson planning and things like that, some activities that you may be able to do. You would have access to that where you won't have it if you're not an admin.
So an admin, Rachel, is like a teacher account, and you can see the students that have indicated that you're their teacher.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So I can pull that up. If you can show me how to share my screen again, I can do that real quick.
I feel like a pro at this.
You are a super pro.
Share.
Yay.
Look at that.
Who knew? Yeah. So all you have to do if you're if you have an admin account, you'll have this admin link here.
It's not sharing. Oh, it's not sharing.
It's not sharing.
It told me.
It did say it was sharing.
It's sharing.
Is that sharing?
It says currently sharing.
Oh no.
Are we back? Okay.
Well, I am not.
We're sharing?
Okay.
Okay. All right. If you
Great.
lost us for a moment. we went away for a moment, I guess, but we're back and we're
We had
sharing.
a brief commercial break on our end, and now we're back. And this is the admin portion of the site. So I have all the screens you won't be able to see or even want to see most of this, trust me. But what you will be able to see are things like all of the help and course plans, all of the training documents for how to use the wizard. You can email us with technical questions. There will be lesson plans and things just for you that will be applicable to your participants, and all of the Spanish language resources in there.
I'm going to stop sharing and take us back.
Perfect.
I'm going to put us back in the PowerPoint. So no, any resources for Arabic or Chinese speakers? No.
Not that I know of. Yeah. You would, for things like that, you would probably want to look at ONET and see if they do. I'm not aware of any. I have a school district in Northern Virginia that actually said they provide translators for that and asked me for the assessment questions, and I was happy to get them the assessment questions so that they could have it translated, but we don't have any plans to do that at this point.
So feel free to keep sending in questions. Rachel will be at our summer conference, as I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, doing a session and being out and about. So we'll be able to talk to her about how to best use the wizard with our students. And we'll also have that standards alignment resource for you and some sample activities you'll be able to use with your students with the wizard, which will be standards aligned. So great workforce prep activities to do with your classes. Here is our contact information. Before we end, any final comments? And this will be archived. This is being recorded, so you'll be able to access this, send it out to others, come back and refresh. But definitely go in and play with the wizard. The assessments are really fun, by the way. They give you interesting insights into yourself.
Right. So I would ask some questions of you all on the line. Has anybody done their own assessment in the wizard? You can just put thumbs up, raise your hand, and we could see it in the chat, or you could put that in the chat. I would strongly recommend just doing it. If you are worried that you'll be embarrassed by what comes up, do it first in the privacy of your own home. It doesn't take too long, but it's a really fun activity to do with your own colleagues. I see some of you have done it. And it's good to do it in advance of doing it with students because it gives you the opportunity to talk about, oh my gosh, why didn't I get funeral director? Which is, what happened to me. But it's good to talk these things through because the students will also get surprising results. And you want to be able to help lead that conversation in a productive way. Right. And help them think through, well, what is familiar about that particular suggestion? How might that align with the assessment results and what I've been told? Some of the outside resources that Rachel pointed to early on also give you some of the language about how to respond to students' questions about, oh my gosh, why did I get that? And why is bartending under such and social emotional? That kind of talk can be very fun and engaging if you can lead it and have a little bit of the path ahead of time. So I'd suggest doing a PLC at your program. Have everybody watch this webinar maybe, we'll slice it down. And archive it. Everybody could watch the archive and then do their own assessment and come back together to talk about it. What was your result and how could we use this with students? How might we pick the chunks to do in different days? Let's start here, let's start there. As Rachel was saying, not everybody wants to start with an assessment, but that kind of thinking through as a team of teachers would probably be very productive. And Rachel, you may have something to say about how schools do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Where we've seen this kind of work best is if it is an approach that's really been thought through before it starts. If you have a meeting and say, here is what we're going to focus on this for now, and then we're going to see, and always try to take, I'm a big fan of data, pre-assessment. How many people have ever taken a career assessment before? Get your numbers aligned and then do whatever you're thinking of doing, and then take a post assessment. How many people learned a little bit more about a career that they didn't know? Because that also gives some meat to what you're doing. It makes sure that what you're doing is relevant, and you can go back, especially on those days when you're having a hard time, and go, hey, I taught 50 people a little bit more about a career than they knew when they walked into the room. Sometimes those things are what keep me inspired. So the same may be true for you.
So we're looking forward to seeing more than 2 million
Yeah.
K-12 users. That's an amazing number.
It is. I can't believe how big that number is.
Huge.
We can't even keep track of
That's
everybody
amazing.
using the wizard.
So kudos to everyone out there who has been using it with their students. And I imagine you have some ideas about what you would like to see in the wizard. And so part of our conversation with Rachel is really what else or what different. And so be thinking about that. Her email is here. You could CC one of us on your suggestions, and certainly bring suggestions to the conference as well, because we'd like to make this work for adult ed. Clearly it's getting used. So how do we take it to the next level?
Absolutely.
And we would love and very much welcome all the feedback we can get on the resources we develop, the resources that are there, and the resources that we develop going forward. So that's a good conversation I'm excited about having with all of you going forward. So if there's nothing else, I think thank you again so much for your patience during our technical snafus near the beginning, and just for coming and learning more about the wizard. I think it's an important tool, and I'm very excited about being able to use it more effectively with our learners. All right. So thank you all. Have a wonderful